So we're now recording. This is the January 28th, 2015 City Council Finance Subcommittee. First item of business is the minutes from the prior meeting. I believe there was only myself and Councilor Riss, so I'll make a motion that the Councilor Riss did send the minutes, and I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes. Councilor Riss?
Second.
I have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Amend the spelling to NA.
One amendment. My name being spelled right. Mayor's communication.
Yeah, I'm all set. Let's move right along.
There's no public here.
We have a special guest, Representative Sybeck. If you'd like to make any comments under the mayor's communication, be more than happy.
Oh, public, no, public speak.
Or we can public speak.
He's public.
He's both.
Well, I'm going to come to the city council meeting in March, but obviously the most important issue for you is budget. We would have expected, had the snowstorm not happened, that the governor was going to announce his cuts Monday or yesterday. And he's now talking about doing it on Friday. He went to the MMA meeting on Friday and Saturday and still continued to pledge that he's not going to cut local aid. He also released the Chapter 90 that the former governor would not release. So I don't expect to see cuts there either.
That's great.
But I think it's going to be obviously a difficult budget.
He is tall.
Yes, he is tall.
He's very tall.
For the record, he is tall.
He's very tall.
We're going to start, we're going through the same budget process as usual. That's what I'll probably talk about in March. And my meeting is actually going to happen in early March. So what I'd be looking for from the Finance Committee, from the City Council, from the Mayor, is are there any specific items? Not that I'm encouraging a lot of them. I mean, I've got a couple of items in Hadley, for example, that were vetoed that we need to try to restore. But that being said, it still is a budget. And I think what people and what the citizens have to realize is that you can't have it both ways. So part of the deficit that we're facing is due to the reduction in the income tax, which people voted for. That certainly is a source of, I think it's something in the ballpark, somewhere in the neighborhood of about $70 to $80 million. What we're facing comes from that. There's some spending issues.
715 million doesn't.
765.
765.
10%.
765.
That's a lot. That's
But-
not just that tax.
No, that's not. But my frustration is that we never heard from the former governor during the summer or the fall that they had factored in that 70 to 75 million. I'm frustrated because I'm hearing from the executive director of the GIC saying that we didn't give her enough money. And I never heard anything in terms of overrides or overruns in terms of the GIC. What I'll tell you is when I was on the MMA board, when I was a selectman in South Hadley, I was part of the local government advisory committee. We meet once a month with the governor. It was both in the Weld and Salucci years. Charlie Baker was secretary of A&F. He was a straight shooter. I think, and we talked about this at the coffee hours with the mayor. I think Charlie Baker will be a straight shooter, and I think if he makes a pledge, we'll live up and honor that pledge as he's done up to this point. That being said, it's going to be tough. I know that there's one community in eastern Massachusetts that announced today that they're already asking for a 10 to 12% increase in their school budget, and that's just not going to happen. I mean,
Really?
Where have we had that
Who are they
before?
asking the increase from?
Chapter 7?
No, who are they asking the increase
The
from?
school committee's asking.
They just announced yesterday. I mean, I just,
Yeah, they're asking.
Their own personal.
The school committee is
Yeah.
asking.
Well, they asked me,
The city.
like, yeah,
Well, we have
So-
the same.
right.
I mean, the reality is we're going to continue to advocate, and what I would hope for is an early local aid resolution. I think the Senate President, the new Senate President, I would suspect would be open to that. There's at least one person in the room who is a constituent of his who could certainly urge that. So we're still, the one thing that's different this year because we have a new governor is that he doesn't have to release his budget until March. It usually would have been this week. But in fairness, so we don't know what his budget will actually come out around the same time as the Ways and Means budget will, in terms of the legislative side. They did have the consensus revenue hearings last week, and I believe that they're fairly close and will come to agreement in terms of what the revenue is. We're still talking somewhere in the neighborhood of about 4.5% to 4.75% growth, which is actually pretty good.
But what happened this year, John? That most of that money was, that were in deficit, I thought was because they did not
Meet the projection.
meet the projection of the revenues.
But the bulk of it was, as Governor Baker saw, it's really not a revenue issue, it's really an expenditure. We're overspending, and the money primarily, and the overruns really went in Mass Health, in Medicaid, in the debacle of the connector website. So people were potentially going to be without insurance, so they wound up signing up for insurance. So right now there's an incredibly large number of individuals and growth in terms of people who are on Mass Health. Should they be on Mass Health? Should it be somewhere else? So we're trying to figure all that stuff out.
That's where the deficit.
We're at the point that the health insurance cost. Whether you talk about Mass Health, and people say, "Well, I'm not on Mass Health, I shouldn't have to worry about it." 90+%, virtually 95% of the people who wind up going to nursing homes eventually wind up on Mass Health. You may have private insurance throughout your entire life, not think that you're ever going to be a Mass Health recipient. If you or a family member goes in a nursing home and they're there for an extended period of time, chances are you're going to be on Mass Health. And that's really where the explosive growth is. Where, not that many years ago, it was 10, 15, 20% of the budget. It's now approaching something like 45 percent of the budget. It's quickly approaching half the budget.
Percent of the Mass Health budget.
Healthcare in general of the entire state budget.
50% of the whole budget?
Pardon?
50% of the whole budget?
Is healthcare related.
Holy cow.
What do the actuarials say? We're all aging up.
That's part of
The
it.
baby boomers are here.
That's part of it. But, I mean, the other part,
This isn't unexpected from that perspective.
no, it's not unexpected. And in 2005, 2006, when we did healthcare reform, we were the first state to get roughly 99 or 97% of people insured. We expected that this was going to be phase 2 was going to start to deal with healthcare costs. And we started passing legislation in the last session to deal with it. We're continuing to look at it. There's greater transparency. What we're trying to do is get people to understand exactly where their healthcare costs are. If you go into a hospital, what it is, choosing an appropriate hospital. I could spend an hour on that stuff, and I don't want to. But the reality is that's the bulk of where our expenditures are in terms of the rapid growth. And it's a thing that we have to get a handle on more than anything else.
Well, I think our biggest fear, listening to Governor Baker, first of all, it sounded like really good news, not touching local aid. And our biggest fear is when we know the deficit that he has. So this fiscal year, and we were pretty, with him not hitting local aid, we're petrified about next fiscal year. Because when you have a budget that went from 329 million to 765 million in just a few months span, where's it coming from? It's coming from somewhere. So if they're not coming at, if it's not hitting local aid this year, I'm worried about my 16 budget. I'm glad it looks like we squeaked through that problem. But what about 16, which is what we're into now? Like my budget requests are just, going to start coming in. And what we heard at the federal level was from Elizabeth Warren, and I can never say his name right, Michael Capuano. From the federal point of view, whatever you're getting now, you're darn lucky. You'll be lucky to get what you're getting now. So that is not good news, and that's from the federal level, and that's where everything trickles from there. So I'm thinking it's we've had some really, really tough years, some really bad years. Last year was a nightmare. I think this one's going to be even worse.
I think the concern that I would have if I were in your shoes, and I understand and don't disagree with you, if he doesn't cut local aid in FY15, then that's right, it's twice
That's what I
as deep.
just said.
The people who are impacted, the agencies, the constituents who are impacted, say, wait a minute, when it comes to 2016, hey, look what you did to us in 2015. We need some sort of a relief. So they're right, it may come. I mean, he's doing some creative things that it makes a great deal of sense. We are bound to take all of our capital gains increases and put them in the rainy day fund. And what he's asking, and it looks like he's going to ask, is to take those capital gains and not put them in the rainy day fund, but use them. So that he doesn't want to spend down the rainy day fund, which makes some sense, so that we're not seeing bonding costs go up for municipalities and other entities. But if we wind up taking those capital gains and just doing it to reduce the deficit, numbers were thrown all over the place, but I was hearing someone in the ballpark about potentially close to $100 million, or $80 to $100 million. Okay, that's another significant portion of that deficit that we're facing. So, I mean, ideally, as I said, it could have come tonight with some idea of where those cuts are going to be. The other thing he's going to have to, not going to have to, but he may wind up doing, is what Governor Romney did 12 years ago, and that's looking for 9C cuts going above and beyond the agencies that he can control. So he's got the ability to cut within the administrative budget, but anything that goes beyond, he's going to need legislative approval to give him the authority to cut those other budgets. Romney originally wanted just carte blanche to be able to cut any budget, and we said, no, we're not going to do that. You need to tell us, you need to give us a ballpark of where you're looking for the cuts, and not just say, we're going to let you cut everything.
Well, I'm glad that that's there.
And then it also requires, cooperation from non-administrative and non-executive branch. So what about the Treasurer's office? What about the Secretary of State's office? What about the courts? I mean, there are various places that as of right now can't be touched. And as Melissa pointed, I think either Karen or Melissa, we're halfway in the fiscal year, so we're greater than halfway. So whatever cuts happen to agencies are going to be twice as He immediately put a hiring freeze in, so there are no positions being filled at the state level, and he's trying a few other things to try to at least wrestle with it fairly aggressively.
I suppose a tax increase is off the table.
Yes, absolutely.
No way.
He said no, will not raise taxes.
Well, I'm not talking about just him. The legislature has the power to do it.
The speaker said there'd be no tax increases, but what the governor has said, he did leave the door open in terms of looking at fees.
But see, that's exactly what Romney did. They would not touch any state taxes, but every fee. That's when your registry went from a $5 to record a municipal lien certificate, or a discharge of a mortgage, to $200. Your licenses, every fee wherever you are went up. So, but that's a different tactic. But they have been clear about, and he was clear about releasing the other $100 million. So my fear is there's good news that we're not attacked this year, but I can't wait, I can't be optimistic for next year thinking it's all going to just compile and be on us. So we can't take any more cuts. 'Cause we are just barely surviving. Which when you get to under new business, you get to the replacement pickup truck, that'll tell you where we're at. I mean, that's where we're at. When we have people driving a pickup truck, at the bottom is held together, and it's our highway supervisor. The bottom is held together with stop signs. That pretty much tells you where we're at. We can't take any more cuts. And where do we cut? Who do we eliminate? Who do we lay off? So I'm feeling that it's going to be, more than difficult this year.
Well, I think that was great insight by the mayor and Representative Simon. Really helped. Appreciate
I
it.
feel really cheerful.
Right.
Thanks, John.
When do you think, so you think the
Happy
same
New
thing
Year.
though, March, we should have, have our figures for local aid? Do you think everything should?
I can't commit to that. I mean, we're going to release, our budget, the House budget's going to come out around the same time as the governor's budget will,
In March?
in March.
Okay.
Actually, a little bit later. He's going to release his before ours is going to come out the last week in March, the first week in April. We're still in the same time frame that we usually are, so our budget will come out probably early April. We will have 10 days to submit budget amendments. No, I'm sorry, we'll have 48 hours to submit budget amendments. They'll have 10 days, Ways and Means Committee to consider whether they're going to include them or not. And so we're on target to debate the budget the last week in April. The Senate usually does it the last week in May. But what has happened in a number of years is that the Senate Ways and Means Chair and the House Ways and Means Chair, together with the Speaker and the Senate President, say, okay, we're going to come up with a local aid resolution. And so we're going to say, okay, here's what we're going to give for local aid. And both sides agree, and we're not going to touch that amount. If things during the course of the budget improve, then you may see it go up. But they'll give you a rock bottom saying, this is what you'll get, so that, and it really is an issue primarily for towns, more so than cities, because you get towns that are going to a town meeting shortly thereafter, and how do you budget? You don't.
Well, it changed how many times last year? How many different ones do we have? Our projection is always
the
to
difference.
be...
The difference with the town is you only get town meeting a couple times a year, so they both, and they often have difficulty getting a quorum.
Right,
And so that's, there's no question that the numbers change.
right.
And I would rather see us come with budget numbers that are the worst case scenario, saying this is what you're going to get at the absolute worst, and let's see what happens.
Right, it's easier to plan on the worst.
The Senate always, they're the knights on the white horse because they do it a month later, and we see whether revenue's picking up. And the month later that they pick up is April, so it's income tax month. So are we above projections, and what do we see in terms of corporate tax and the like? There's also some discussion that Governor Baker had in terms of a tax amnesty program, but not an individual, which we've done in the past, but actually doing it. There's some talk possibly about doing a business or corporate tax amnesty program, which one would expect might generate more revenue than from individuals. But there's a reluctance to start creating this expectation that there will always be a tax amnesty program so that you don't pay your taxes. And so that's why the scuttlebutt seems to be there's not a lot of not a strong appetite for individual tax amnesty. And we've done that in the past. Now you need to pay up, but possibly some businesses.
Well, we usually always have our goal to get it to the full city council meeting. Usually we use that April 15th, which I think this time it actually is a meeting. We always estimate April 15th, but it's technically the second city council meeting in April. So we like to do it at that point, so then it goes to the finance, so it gives you plenty of time to go over it, meet with the different departments. But if something happens and numbers aren't out by that point, because we always present the balanced budget by then, so we base it on figures we have at that point, or hold it back a little bit. But see, we only have 3 meetings after that. Because we have 2 in May,
One in June.
and 1 in June. So that only gives us, it doesn't give us, gives us a good amount of time, because Finance Subcommittee is very organized with, going through it. And usually you go through it in 3 nights.
3 meetings.
Yeah, 3 meetings, but that still isn't a lot of time, so.
Usually one Wednesday and then one Tuesday.
That's what we usually try to,
If we stay with our schedule, we will release, the Ways and Means Committee will release the House budget on April 15th. It's a Wednesday, right?
yes, it is a Wednesday.
At 11 o'clock that morning is when they would release their budget.
Okay.
So you'd at least have House numbers, and
Well,
you should have a sense.
Our budget would be done by then, April 15th.
Usually, yeah.
Our budget, yeah. So we would have house numbers on April 15th.
And you may actually have,
The governor's money.
well, you have the governors for sure, You'll have the governors in March.
You're looking at
The House
the
bid,
third week of March?
But you, yeah, I think third or fourth week in March.
For the governor?
For the governor.
Right. That's
And then what may happen is, between the governor releasing his numbers and the House Ways and Means Committee working on their numbers, they may come to some agreement and say, with the senator, let's get a local aid resolution. Say, this is what the bottom line's going to be.
Bottom line,
So that April
cities
15th number could be agreed on by the House and Senate, so you know at that point it's not going to go down. It seldom would go down, but it's not going to be final numbers.
Right.
But as long as the final numbers keep going up.
And you can pay your own taxes on April 15th when everybody's out.
So I apologize for taking so much.
Oh, no, that's, I think it was very informative. I
Always great to see you, Jim.
appreciate it.
So I'll see you in March.
Okay, sounds good, thank you.
I don't want to stick around here the rest of your bad news.
No, the rest of it's,
It's pretty
very,
good.
very, it flows very fast, very effective.
Okay.
These meetings are very effective,
Okay, moving on. Thank you, Representative.
so.
If we could change the order a little because we have two esteemed guests here, we'll move over to new business and do the pickup truck first because the city clerk has two items that she's involved in. So we'll try to get one out of here first. So this is a supplemental appropriation of $36,000 from free cash to the highway supervisor's truck. As the mayor pointed out in a few comments, this is a 2001 pickup truck, and I'll let the director speak to its need of replacement.
Yeah, it's 2001, it's got about 140,000 miles on it, but we don't really know how many miles it has because the dash lights go on and off and the odometer starts and stops, and so we don't really know. But the floor is all rotted in it, so we've got some old street signs holding the floors together so that he doesn't get his feet wet when he's riding around in a rainstorm. But the big thing is that the transfer case is leaking, and we know that's going to cost $3,500 to fix that, and we're putting $3,500 into something that could die a week later. So it's time. It really is time. This truck, he also carries a supplemental fuel tank on there, so you can go around and fuel up the equipment for not only highway, but for water and sewer, the backhoes or the excavator. They don't have to load it up and bring it down the highway. You can go out on the job site, fuel it up for them. Fuel up things during the snowstorm too. You can pull up and fuel up the diesel machine. So it's something that, this is a 3/4 ton. It also pulls a trailer to load the skid steer or blacktop roller on it. So it's not just a vehicle for him to ride around in. This is a work truck that will be used many different ways every day.
It's bigger than what he has now.
No, he has a 3/4 ton now.
So it's going to do
It's
the
just
same kind
a
of work.
replacement, just one for the other. Yeah.
And just to back up what Joe's saying, these are things that we've been over again and again and again over the last year. Buying vehicles to, sometimes what we've looked at, in the past is, unfortunately, buying vehicles, save a few $1,000s by buying a smaller vehicle or a little better on gas, which does not suit the purpose of the vehicle. It's happened so many times. So I think it's important that when we are replacing vehicles, we replace them so that they do the job that they need to do with that vehicle. Like Joe mentioned, with the oil refueling, and by buying a smaller version, because the Chevy 250s versus a 150, there's a big difference in the usage of it. So what you're saving when you get a lesser vehicle is pretty much absolutely nothing.
Right. Because I know we do
Getting-
have that efficiency.
I know, but and that's really difficult.
But it's gotta be
Dan.
for the
That's
job.
really, right, that's really difficult, being with the green communities and the fuel efficiency. But, so what we've had, and we've seen it, I've seen it in the school department, and I've seen it in the DPW, where we have vehicles that don't serve the use.
They're not matched correctly to the
Right,
job.
right. I mean, this vehicle needs to tow,
Right.
and
And this is off the state bid list, I
It's off the state bid.
And what, we get rid of the old vehicle? Are we keeping it, or?
We'll surplus it
Big
at
trade-in.
the auction. We might get between $500 and $1,000 for it.
They don't want to trade in on that, John?
No, they don't. Liberty Chevrolet doesn't want to see
We'll
it.
throw the stop
Take the
sign.
stop signs out.
Throw the stop sign.
Yeah, so this one, that's another good question, Dan. This one is definitely, this will go to, as you know, we clean up the highway garage yard every year. We do a surplus bid. This one, Joe said they don't want it for a trade and don't understand why. But for something like this, if it's somewhat a decent vehicle, we recycle them. You know, a department that might have less, use it less, sometimes to park, sometimes, I mean, we have people that need vehicles all over the place. But this one is going right to the highway garage to be surplus and bye-bye. This is not something for us to
Pass
recycle
on to
within our
another
fleet.
department, right?
Yeah. I think everyone's pretty clear on this one.
Any other questions, Councilor Kwasinski?
Certainly, it's a long time. Mileage, usage was done well. Something about power windows, though, that bugs me.
Well-
Power windows and power locks for $882. I'm going to ask you to speak to that and tell me why we need to have power windows.
What happens is when they put this bid package together, that's the way the trucks come. They come from the factory with this equipment on it. That's the way they did it. If we wanted to spec one with crank windows, we'd probably have to special order it, and it would probably cost more money than the package. So that's, you know,
It's what's on the lot.
It's what
they have.
What's on the bid package? It was bid by the state when they bid the job.
Right.
John?
no, this is actually Plymouth County bid.
Commissioners.
And honestly, I don't know if maybe you have a vehicle to roll down the windows, but I actually by accident ended up buying one of those where you have to roll down the windows, and it's a nightmare.
Well, in reality, the hand crank is going to wear out before that button does.
Well, the knobs fall off.
Great.
you know?
That's what I'm saying. The
So,
hand crank's going to
we've
wear
had
out
to-
before
yeah.
the button does.
They do, like I said, by accident, and I had to sit back and...
I'm just
The
curious.
truck I just turned in had hand cranked windows.
Yep.
They're not standard. They look like add-ons.
Yes, it looks like an add-on. in the
They're
back.
just
To me,
price
it
breaking
seems
it
like it
down.
should be, all the
Well-
stuff, a lot of the stuff should be standard.
That's the way the bid package is put
Later.
together.
Oh, okay, you don't put it together.
We
No.
don't put it together.
Thanks, Jim.
John wants to say something.
That's also the way dealers are, you have to realize that it's not just the municipalities that are buying these vehicles.
Right.
And so Chevrolet is going to market their vehicle with a low base price to compare. But you as a private citizen say, well, I want the crew cab, I want the power windows, I want the power locks.
Right.
And so, and I think as the vehicles are going along the line, it is far easier for them to manufacture 10 trucks today
Right.
and put that electric power window in all 10 trucks as opposed to pulling it out and putting them in. And so I think it's, but what they're doing is saying, oh yeah, you can get it if you want it that way. So your
It's a special
MSRP,
order.
your MSRP on the base price is very low. But in reality, the popular equipment, of which this is it, you're getting this way.
The package you're getting is
Certainly the towing package, all the other items here, four-wheel drive, all make sense.
So the only,
Bedliner, my only question is the power windows, save $1,000.
no, so the only thing you really requested, Joe, was the items at the end, the
Customer requested options.
toolboxes,
That's right.
the racks.
Yes.
New racks
In the light bars.
In the light.
Right.
Everything
The other
else
stuff
came with the
all
package.
came
That's
with the
correct. Everything else came with the package.
The only other question I have, the two-way radio, it sounds like you're taking the old radio out, putting it in, no, you're buying a new two-way radio?
New two-way radio, $700. These radios take a beating every day, and you're taking a $700 radio that you bought, we maybe paid $500 for it 14 years ago, and you're gonna take it out, you're gonna put it in there, and you're gonna have nothing but problems with it. So the other one lasted 14 years, we're looking for this one to go the distance too. But when you start taking used equipment, putting it in the new vehicle, you're just asking for trouble. You're just asking for 5, 6 years down the road, okay, now we gotta deal with it because, you know.
I have no problem with this because I understand how bidding works, packages work. You have to live with it.
My questions have been answered.
I'll move that we accept the
I'll second.
36.
We have a motion and a second to accept the supplemental appropriation of $36,000 for highway supervisor's truck. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for your, thanks for your details.
Don't overuse those power windows.
You leaving us, John?
I am.
You save the old
Pleasure.
windows in case you're leaving.
We do.
John, I don't know if you have anything to do with the fact that we get all these nice grants
We don't use a
that
lot.
Jessica is so good at getting, but thank you. 7 point some
No,
million.
occasionally, it's...
7 point some million.
Jessica...
Mass works, John.
Yeah,
You do mass work stuff, don't you? Help us with those.
we do, we do. Jessica's great in terms of asking, making sure we're aware of it, so we can put the letters of support in. And part of it is just the track record, and this goes back to Stewart. I mean, it goes back years. East Hampton has done very, very well, and the Commonwealth, I think, has seen that it's a great return on investment. So in some situations where some communities get grants and they either can't spend it, or they can't spend the money, or what they spend it on isn't, it doesn't have the outcome that was originally intended. And so one of the cases that we always make is you know, you've got a proven entity. We have a strong track record. And a lot of this stuff actually builds on, so think back, you know, 12, 13 years ago when we had the charrette over at Eastworks, and starting to plan and what the next phase was. And so you look at all the improvements that happened at Pleasant Street, and really it didn't all happen in one fell swoop, you know, build after build after build. So I think, and you're absolutely right, Jessica does a great job, and the planning department does a great job of being aware of them, applying for them, and submitting competitive applications. But they also make sure that we're, you know, we're aware of it, and can we do a letter of support, or is there anything we can do to try to urge and remind people that
It just occurred to me that this is the kind of place where cuts may come.
yeah, it could.
Next year. I mean, I'm glad we're getting it now.
We have your letter here.
Do you know that?
Yep.
You really?
It's in the back.
Oh, look at
It's in the
that.
pack.
I didn't even
Back
read
in
all
August.
these factors.
I remember. So you did get them? You did get it?
This is a CPA, so this is
Okay.
CPA.
Well, they
That's the
said
rail
we
trail
had to
one,
give the
guys.
CPA money to get
Well,
the last segment, the last
Okay, let me
phase.
tell you one last thing. We're also in the middle of legislation. So we filed 5,000, some odd bills. Last term was like 7,000. So 5,000 bills have been filed. We're now in the middle of co-sponsoring period. But Rep. Kulik has filed a bill to basically request and ensure that the CPA money is fully funded. And it's one that I support because, you know, it's the best demonstration. You as a community have to pony up, if you will, in terms of what the assessment is for community preservation. But the state knows that you're good for your share, and the state should be good for their share, and the dollars, you know, are put to good use, obviously.
And I thought those funds came from the recording fees.
They do, except what happens is it used to be 100%, and the percentage started dropping down because more
communities came in, more.
And so the issue from our perspective is we should be putting more money in there to preserve the amounts of so communities don't drop out, and if other communities continue to go in,
Right.
because it's a leveraged situation where
Presumably the money will go back to the recording.
yes, well no not necessarily, or we could appropriate.
From where?
Well, okay. Well, from tax dollars, but do you want us to appropriate dollars that are going to go on some? Is it going to be the whim of the Ways and Means Committee, let's say, or the administration saying, okay, we're going to put an extra $5 million in for parks, not knowing how that money is going to be allocated? Or would you rather have that $5 million go into CPA money, knowing that if we do it the first way, there may not be a commitment of a penny on the part of the community that receives it. A concern that I've got, I don't have any gateway communities in my district. We've got a number of them here, obviously, in the vicinity, and what's troubling to many of us is that there seems to be more and more money going to gateway communities, which I'm not saying is not necessary, but should we not have something similar for non-gateway communities to ensure that they're eligible for dollars? It shouldn't be that everything's going to 10 or 12 or 14 cities. And it's especially the case when you start getting into rural Franklin County or into Berkshire County where communities don't have a Jessica. So if you have no one who can write the grants, does that automatically mean that they shouldn't be eligible because they don't have the skill set? Or dealing with part-time, there's got to be allocations that are equitable, I think, across the entire Commonwealth for every community. But to get back to this, I think that one of the things that I've supported is CPA. My own community has voted it down, so South Hadley is not a CPA community. East Hampton has seen the benefits. Hadley has done it. And so I've seen what has happened in those communities and what the benefits are. And I think it makes a stronger case when you're applying for state dollars, when you as a community come up and say, okay, we're going to pony up our share.
Well, that's exactly what this is.
We're not looking for 100% from the state. We're going to contribute X number of dollars.
Because if we didn't have CPA, Jessica would have to come to us and say, can you give us $400,000? And where the hell would we get it?
Well, first of all,
would we get it?
First of all, this is phase 3. We didn't pay it down. These are MassWorks.
Right, but
This
I
is the
mean-
total of $7.2 million that we will receive from the MassWorks grant, when the only thing that we have put in will be this $400,000
Right.
from CPA. And, like Dan's saying, where would we get a $400,000
We're not going to get it anywhere.
match?
Take it from
But this is
stable.
$7.2 million of infrastructure that this city would never have been able to touch. Never mind what was done by the utilities and the mill owners. Never mind that.
Everything
So you
that
have an
CPA
extreme,
pays-
unusual partnership.
We would not have done. There's no way we would fix our parks. We did football fields, we did soccer fields, we're doing baseball fields, we're doing
Baseball we do, soccer's coming.
soccer's coming. We wouldn't do these. We couldn't do them. We just fixed the historic building, the town hall. Couldn't do that.
But as I said,
Can't do it.
But you've
Unless you have
demonstrated
this.
over a period of time that the 7.4 million and the other projects are worthwhile, that they've been productive. They've made a difference in terms of, look at the revenue that's been generated just going down Pleasant Street in terms of the rehab of the mills. So think before Will Bundy started, before East Woods, and then you start looking at Paragon, you look at the other buildings. So there's tax revenue that's coming back to the city. You've got facilities that are generating interest in terms of
Jobs.
people
It's
coming in
economic
and jobs.
development.
It's a win-win
It's
situation.
recreation development. The rail trail wouldn't have happened without the park and rec, without CPA money. All of that. It's quality of life. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Pleasure. Thanks.
Okay, we took this up at our last subcommittee meeting.
Are you gonna have a public hearing on that 36, or are you gonna hold off?
On the 36? Oh,
Why are we gonna hold up?
well, the only thing is, that might be the only thing, and I didn't know I don't have a problem doing a public hearing. Is there going to be anything else coming for that? Would be the second meeting in February.
Well, we should let them get this as soon as we can.
Yeah, I don't, as I said, it was just the advertising cost if there was nothing else.
I meant to ask you.
But it's not that much. I'm sure there might be something there.
Yeah, I mean, you do it all the time.
So I'll set a public hearing.
Okay, so you'll do that, because I,
You're not going to be there. The second meeting in February, not going to be. So I'll set the public hearing the first
Where are you
meeting.
going, skiing?
I have a conference. So I
I was at a
wanna,
conference.
I just wanna do the ad and get it, because
Right.
it runs on Saturday.
Right, yeah. So we'll do a public hearing for the second meeting in February. This item, back to the CPA funding, I obviously
Went over it pretty heavily.
we're very familiar with it, and Councilor Rist went over it, but Councilor Kwasinski obviously wasn't able to be here, and I did provide him with a lengthy application, and I know it's kind of unfair to ask him
So
to
this
have all his
meeting's
questions.
all about you, JP, so what do you want?
But I'm sure he would have this,
But
He will have this to ask at the full council meeting if there's other, right, if
Just
there's
so
a...
you know, the biggest thing about this is that the 400,000 leverages phase 3. Because I'm correct in saying that, Karen, that the state would not have given us the last bit of funding without us coming up with our share.
I don't think so. First
They
of all,
they requested, I thought it was almost a demand.
no, it was when putting in the when putting in the application. I mean, just to look at the funding that we received and not having spent a penny of city funds, Jessica had discussed it with us, and it's like, obviously, it really looks a little bit better. And then, to get all 3 phases, I mean, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 is just unbelievable. So when applying for phase 3, we all thought this was just a fantastic, suggestion and an idea to use these funds for exactly that, because they're also for infrastructure, but to use any kind of leverage we could to get it, and it was successful based on that. I think so.
Right.
In the application.
Yeah.
JP, what this is going to primarily fund is, obviously, the mill, we did the utilities and that was some of that other $7 million of work was making it safe because the fire department couldn't get up to the residential apartments because of the wire. But I think the main thrust of this is going to be to take the rail trail, and Barbara could probably add to this, and actually make where you'll be able to come off the rail trail right into the mills and be able to, for shopping, so people can actually access the mills right off their bicycles. And then another part will be, and I know Jessica explained it well, will be to do some lighting all the way from Union to the mills. So they'll light up the trail a little bit and make improvements there. The mill owners have thrown in a minimum of...
They're gonna be giving us to start with $3,000 for the maintenance.
To the-
Another
Per year.
Yeah, per year.
And said they would,
going up.
if it had to go up, they would up it, but they'll start with 3,000 to the Rail Trail Committee to maintain it, so that there's no
So
additional city.
Another large part of what this phase 3 is going to, is they're gonna be adding 400 parking spaces. So in order to add the spaces, they've got to take out all that brushy stuff between the bike path and the mills, and they're gonna bump it out and add this long retaining wall, which will be very close to the bike path for a long ways, and which will mean the bike path will be closed this whole season.
Right.
Once we get the money. But in order, that's the only way they can add parking, which will allow the mill owners to complete their build-outs.
Do you have to close the rail trail in order to put the parking in? Why?
Yeah, because they're building this humongous retaining wall, which will
right
be right
next to
along the bike path, so they can fill and then, add
Add
parking.
parking.
Yeah, because they're gonna add like 400 spaces, which I can't even picture.
If I understand it correctly, this was always planned as
It
part of
was.
this renovation, but the CPA money can only fund
The rail trail
this
portion of the, to make the improvements to the rail
So that's how the
trail.
funding qualifies, because it's the rail trail portion that would have been paid for by the grant
There's,
that we're paying for in order to meet the
there's almost,
MassWorks request that we get money in.
because there's 3 million or 2,900,000 that's going to be put in there, but to do the parking and all that. This is to make the improvements to the rail trail for access to the mills and to the lighting coming back to it.
The pretty part.
The pretty part. The pretty part.
Yeah, there's gonna be,
Yes.
I think they said like 3 entry points. Two or 3.
Right
From-
now.
You said
from
3,
the
but you're
point.
right.
Yeah, we looked at the plans last week, and I can't remember what's changed. So people can access.
Is this
the
actual
trail.
plans right here?
Those are artist rendering.
It's pretty cool.
We did have a meeting last week with the designer, went over the plans. They're gonna be going out to bid in February.
I didn't even know that these existed.
What are you referring to?
We don't,
These are going to exist.
well,
You don't
there's
know yet?
one area that they have to get under detention base,
That's pretty cool.
for sure.
That would be cool to have access, closer access. It's nice to look at parking spaces behind there.
Well, I think it's gonna make the mills more vibrant,
Well, they're trying to make that the main entrance.
so that more people come in from the back. They're in business, as you mentioned.
The lights, how far apart, how would they be, do you have any?
I don't think, in fairness to the planner, I don't think she really, they're still looking at design, because they're also worried a little bit about the vandalism, and there's a few residences, so they're not trying to make them so there's lighting problems for the
Right,
residents. So I don't
that's
think
what I was thinking.
I don't think they've set in stone exactly what, and maybe the mayor has more updated information. The last I knew,
You're
that's
right.
what she had said at the last meeting, that they were still looking into lighting options, that they just,
That's the last I heard too.
you know, maybe something at the full meetings. I'm sure Jessica will be there. Maybe by then she would have more information on exactly what they have planned. You know, this was talked about even in CPA about the lighting, because while everyone's for the lighting, you know, there was some concerns of, again, there's a few private residences that it doesn't disrupt them,
Depends
but
on what
also,
they do.
so they were thinking of going real low, but if you go real low, then it's,
It's
you know,
not doing as much.
it doesn't do as much and sets it up for vandalism. You know, somebody could be, you know, access to break them or whatever.
So you have it down, shaded down.
Right, they got
It's
it.
not lighting very much.
Well, it does light, but it doesn't disperse
just
out
needs
over
to-
the neighbors.
I'm sure they got the, what do they have, that sky lighting, that doesn't go. But,
Bike racks, 2 racks, you're talking about here?
That kind of thing,
yeah, they were, because I asked questions on, is there bollards, or was there some other things that
we
could,
want it
that
to
looked
be as
expensive.
simple as, there's not gonna be too much space between the bike path and the wall, like a mowing strip, basically. So, there's not gonna be a whole lot for anything.
What's that actually gonna look like?
It's not gonna be-
I'm just, you're talking concrete?
They don't know exactly yet. I think it's gonna be similar to like what's on the Luffield Street Bridge, or even the one that's over Route 10. It's like a block. It's not gonna be like cinder blocks, it's gonna be like.
Those locking blocks.
He didn't have an exact picture of what it would look like. But yeah, and then there was a thought of maybe having areas where there'll be some murals, whether the murals are on the wall directly or
Tall is
panels
this
like
wall?
the bike path. It's gonna be like the whole area, like the whole.
Well, it can be up to 8 feet, 8 to 20.
8 feet tall?
Between 3 and 8 feet.
I guess I don't understand, because I thought that parking lot was almost at grade with the,
No, it's.
Oh, no.
it's high?
you go-
Right behind Eastworks or
All
down
that
further?
brush.
Because it comes down in from the back of the
Oh,
mills, it
okay,
comes
yeah.
down in where, like, if you've ever been,
It slopes down, but you're gonna do it, you're gonna build it
so
out.
they're gonna build it out so it's
I
flat
remember that.
from the bike path.
Yeah, so you're gonna do a lot of fill there,
Right,
so you're gonna have a big wall.
to bring it up, because they're gonna use more than just the part that comes out of the mills.
All right, yeah, they're gonna,
Build it up,
Yeah.
out to the,
It's gonna be a wall, and I think everyone has to realize that in order for the mills to really be a great place, you gotta have places to park in. It's just, the other side will be open, it will be open and it'll probably be cleared more, and so I think in the long run, overall grand scheme, the wall has to be there, and
right, so, I'm just curious.
if we can have some places with some art on it, maybe that'll help. Graffiti is an is a concern.
Right, the last meeting, we talked a lot about the wall, and it was exactly that, we have the issues at Millside Park with graffiti, where those have to be sandblasted off at over $1,000 a whack. So trying to make something, trying to kind of take into consideration, something that would either be graffiti more easily removed, or how to avoid it, by what Barbara was just talking about, murals, different things like that. So everything has been suggested,
Yeah.
and obviously, how many feet long was the wall? It's really, it's a long area of wall. Does it have it in there? Dan,
No,
how many feet long it is? It covers a very, very long area. So the wall is one of the,
Behind Eastworks.
Putnam Court right down to like the back of the.
right, it's
behind
from
it.
Eastworks all the way to the Legion, correct?
yes.
So you're talking this
It's a
entire
wall.
way.
I think it's all this part here, this is the bandstand area.
That's
so
a
it's-
quarter mile.
It's a long wall. He said how many feet and at the meeting, and it's an amazing amount. So the wall itself is a huge expense. you know?
And that's why the trail will need to be closed for
Right.
probably the whole season.
Well,
Yeah.
And I
We're
think,
looking at detours.
and I know I was on the planners list because of the CPA, I don't know if anyone else got it, but they're also, we were talking about aesthetics, this Conway School that's down in there is having a meeting with the planning board on February 8th to discuss, they're doing some, at least preliminary things of what they might be able to do with Lower Mill Pond and some
Right.
of the banking to make it a little more, so that's going to be a public hearing on the 5th. That wouldn't be part of this project, but
No.
that'd be going forward maybe with some ideas to make it more aesthetic, because as Barbara said, if it's got a big wall on one side, you want to have the other side as aesthetic as possible. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that because I did get that today, I think, from
Yeah.
So I don't know, JP, I know it's tough if you have any other questions, or I know you may have them at the full city council.
The mayor, the graffiti prevention, what kind of techniques are there? What do you?
Well, that's
do
what
you do?
came up. The meeting we had, that was just last Thursday, right,
Yeah.
Barb? A lot of people from the Manhan Rail Trail were there, and, what was the name of he had all his plans out.
Yeah, I can't remember his name.
And
Levesque.
Yes. And John Mason was there, and we're just trying to, go over everything, and like when he's making suggestions, and also Jessica's on top of it to say, everything you add or everything you change becomes a very high dollar sign when you're talking about that length and that much of wall. So he had proposed originally, says, originally just be kind of like and he was comparing it to, and it was Peter that asked. He said, not cinder blocks.
Right.
And he said, no, not that, but kind of like a basic wall.
Yeah.
And our concerns were, looking at different materials, things that you can, and it's pretty bad when you have to plan for graffiti, but to remove it in an easier way, or we were thinking sections that you could have murals on it. Different, some come attached, some are not.
There is stuff that
So they just
you
used
can
a lot of
spray.
that.
You
Some of
can
the
spray
schools
on it.
now, they spray the buildings up to a certain height so that if somebody does, it doesn't prevent the graffiti.
No.
It's
But if
it's
somebody,
easier to remove.
if somebody sprays graffiti on there, it's easy to remove. It
Yep.
doesn't,
It reduces
into the
adhesion.
porousness,
Right.
right, so it can go,
Reduces adhesion.
so it can be cleaned off easily.
Exactly.
Have you had any graffiti on the murals over here?
Over there,
Where are
by across
yeah.
from Tiananmen,
they? Yeah.
just a tiny little bit.
So you would say then that artwork might discourage graffiti? People aren't
And-
tending to...
And one of, was that Carla from the Rail Trail was saying actually getting some student group involved in this particular part for that reason, maybe having an area where they could, have access to some type of mural. And so a lot of discussion is had on it. There's,
Well, I think too, you have to remember that there's gonna be more people down there, there's gonna be the lights.
The lighting.
Right now, it's like,
Oh, yeah, it's
where the
pitch
car,
black.
it's
And
black.
It's desolate.
And
Yeah.
there's gonna be the car, there's gonna be more people around, so that,
well, you're looking at 400 parking spots, is what you're looking at. 400 parking
that's a lot.
spots.
So
That is a
A
lot.
lot of parking.
But,
That's
but the
the
mill
entire-
owner,
It's like building a parking garage.
but the
It's-
mill
I
owner,
was gonna say, Smith's parking garage doesn't have
Free,
any
no charge.
spots.
but honestly,
parking for
Will Bundy was here
attractions
and
to
Mike
your
Michon,
businesses.
and they said that's not anywhere near enough. So,
For the
but,
size of the buildings, yeah.
yeah, I mean, when you think of those buildings, where they go, when you begin at 116 Pleasant Street, the beginning of Eastworks, and you go all the way down to the end, where the Legion is, it's a lot of space. You know?
400 more than we had.
I was just saying, a few times I've gone to like the registry or something, it's tough during the day to even get a parking spot now.
Right.
I'm not so sure at night. I mean,
And
that's-
so that they can't build out everything they want to
Because there's no more.
Right.
It discourages anyone from coming in saying, hey, if I build in here, then nobody can park.
Right, and people, and like making it more accessible and easily to spot. A lot of people don't even know what's in the back. 180 rear, people don't even know what's back there. So,
Right.
just making all of the mills more visible, but especially the rear.
In terms of cameras, does that
they do
help?
have them on the mills already.
Yeah.
On the mills, but on this wall, that
The park has put one in since the graffiti, and they feel that has helped quite a bit. So I know that the mills guys said they had their cameras, and maybe with the change, they may be able to be seen from, you know,
Once they clear it.
once they clear it, and and they may be able to see down below. I think it being lit up, I mean, over here, you talk about over here in this mural, it's lit there
It's
because
lit.
of the parking lot.
Right, that's right.
Yeah,
And the
you're
people
right.
coming and going, you know?
I don't have any other questions.
No, I think this is such a wonderful project. I'll move that we approve.
I will second.
Okay, we have a motion, and a second, to approve the request from the CPA of $400,000 to help offset the funding of the Mandan Rail Trail segment to Ferry Street and Union Street. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
And there's already a public hearing set for the next meeting on this one, so that one's all set. Okay, our final item
Budget.
tonight is the budget.
I have to say that I'm a little concerned that our clerk goes on all these conferences.
So we wanted to cut that. A couple of items we have to talk about. This is every other year, correct, Barbara and the mayor? This is the year we have the election, if you're assuming you're having it, because I know we fund half of it. and-
Swearing-in.
I guess you fund all of it, in a way, the swearing-in ceremony. And so we always have to put
We
a...
split it 3 ways, right, Barb? The mayor's office, school department, and city
It's
council.
very affordable.
Yeah, I don't
That's under-
know.
right here,
I think it's
Dan,
up to
under food.
$40.
So like last year...
$75, that's what we're talking about?
I mean, last year we didn't even use
I
that.
want to know what the percentage of the total budget that is. .0.
Well, we didn't put it in last year, Barbara.
Right, but this year, that was from the year before.
Right, so that would be something we're probably gonna have to put in. Oh, you mentioned. So as far as just going down, like the advertising, we seem to be holding, but I know that goes up periodically, Barbara, so I guess we're looking a little bit, or I am looking, and we won't make a final decision until the next subcommittee meeting, because we have one extra, because I know Melissa would like everything in by, I think it's the 19th, and we have a meeting the 18th of the full council, so hopefully we can get it approved and we can decide.
That's fine.
Are we going to level fund across?
Well, I mean, I don't know about advertising, I guess I'll ask Barbara, I know it goes up. Right now, we look like we're about halfway through the year and we're not quite, we got about half, so we're there, I don't
I'm
know.
always at the end of the year, like, just crossing my fingers. And also, you know, another thing is, for all the ordinances, the zoning ordinance, the planning department, because that has to be advertised twice.
Right.
And the planning department has always just done it. Of course, Stuart would just pay for it, but, I mean, the planning department doesn't have a big budget either. I think it's really, it's only fair that the council should pay for one of those advertisements. But she has, you know, because right now we don't pay for any of it.
Right. Weren't we gonna pay for,
So last year we, you know, they were like, they didn't have anything. So this money that we use is just for like
these public, like
these
we were
public,
just saying?
not for the joint public hearings that the planning and ordinance have to hold.
Well, that might be something we wanna think about.
Well, if we kept this, though, they could always come to us and we could do a transfer.
No,
So
you
we'll pay
wouldn't
for
have
something.
it.
No, I mean, like, you know, it runs twice, so, I mean, to me, it really seems fair if it's a joint public
Right,
hearing.
joint
Council
public
should pay
hearing.
for half, planning should pay for half.
That certainly
But-
makes sense.
So if that's the case, then we need to increase the advertising for sure.
Or beyond the 1,800?
Beyond
To 2,000
1800.
maybe?
Well, it's just a matter of accounting. They decrease their budget and we decrease ours. isn't it?
I don't know where she finds the money, because I don't think she's,
But you also want to go up a little bit on general office supplies.
but you have to because,
How come you have nothing this year?
well, that is usually just used for the plaques
That's all?
and
We spent $220 on plaques this year? That's 2 years?
Well, you never know how many
expect
people
them
are
to
gonna
be
leave, and how many
cheap.
people are gonna come in. I mean, if you want it, if you don't wanna give people
You
plaques.
should make a new rule.
You don't have to give people plaques.
Oh, I'll retire and then I won't get a plaque. I think we have to make a new rule that you have to be counselor for at least 2 terms before you
We
get
get
a
a
plaque.
plaque, no one-term plaque.
there's-
No one,
No
no one,
one-term
no one
plaques.
timers.
There's
One
not-
and done, stay
Yeah, I
done.
mean, there's nothing saying that you have to do a plaque.
Oh,
I mean, if you don't wanna do a plaque, then just don't.
Now, Counselor
then just put
Kwasinski
in-
already got a plaque. Do you get a second plaque if you're coming
Yeah,
forward?
that's
You-
true.
but
Once
That's
you
it.
get one, that's it.
I guess you could bring it in, we could re-engrave it like for a different.
But if there are new counselors, I need to get new name
Right.
things.
So what,
That you have to have.
That we have to
You
have.
have to.
So we're gonna have the 220 back.
So we want to go back to 220 rather than 75, is what you're saying, right?
No, the one above it.
I would do 200 for
Five-
office
five, four,
supplies
two,
and
one.
75 for food.
5421, office supplies.
Yeah, that's where she's saying down below, that's where we put the 200 then?
200, like,
Isn't office supplies 75 now?
No, that's food.
No, we're adding food. Food is 0, we're adding 75.
No, food is 5490. Food service supplies.
Let's see what you're looking at.
5490, right here.
Okay, you're just going over your budget, so you're done with us.
Yes.
Yes.
So thank you.
How are you?
We'll get it to you though, Mayor.
Yeah, you're gonna give us the next,
So.
the next
this is
meeting.
the-
Yeah.
You're
this
gonna
was-
keep it
It'll
on
probably be
schedule.
the regular.
Right, okay,
This is
good.
this year's
Yeah,
food
yeah.
supplies, 75, see? General office supplies had nothing.
We got that coat.
They had no plan.
No idea what.
So food service, that would be the 5490. We don't, there's nothing in there this year.
See, this one might be,
Whose is this then? Where did I get
This is what that's my one that I work, that's the current fiscal year that I work at. And this is the proposal that
that? I know, but this current fiscal year says there's $75 in there.
This is the,
so I think this is something you think,
All of this is the same right here.
Yeah,
That's-
these are just, okay, so let's go back for the top. We may want to add 2,000 here,
2,000 for advertising
I
and
would
then,
do 200 for office supplies.
Add 2,000 or add
to make it,
No.
increase it.
go from 1,800 to 2,000.
Yeah, okay.
No, I'm saying 200.
You have the running sheet.
Plus
You can
200.
Tell how much we spent.
Education and training, we did nothing last year?
No, but there's in-state travel.
Right, which is down at the bottom.
Right.
100, we used that. Want to keep that at 100? I know we did.
Is that for
I
concerts?
bounced that to 2.
I mean, if you want to go to any meetings, that's not.
I know JP said he used it last year and he didn't even cover half his cost of
The
going.
half, it's about a
So
third.
how do we decide who gets it?
Yeah, it's hard.
You apply,
If there's money, I
and
guess.
again, to the council president.
Is it just for the one MMA meeting that you?
That's what
mean, there's
I've gone
other
to, and it
meetings.
costs $200 for the conference, another,
Well, we
You know,
can,
if we can get one
parking
counselor to
or
go, we
hotel.
ought to pay for it.
yeah, you gotta pay for it, which is about $250, $300.
But I'm, you know, Melissa's
So-
very tight. You're gonna go up 100% on any part of these budgets?
right,
That's gonna, she's gonna
because it
say,
shows
"Why?"
by percentage.
Well, it doesn't matter that it's such a small
From
amount.
100 to 200 is not, and that doesn't cover going to a
Well, you
conference.
can
I'm
always
just
ask.
telling you that
You can
that's,
always ask for it, and if they want to cut it, they can cut it. I mean, it
So-
doesn't hurt to ask for it.
food service is 75.
75 for food. And then office supplies,
I would do 200.
because of the plaques, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't use it,
You're just going to get returns. And then postage, we're still okay, or you need something?
there's still some in there, and you know, if you have to mail a letter to it, it just comes out.
So think those figures over, and we can certainly change them at the next one before we approve it, because we got one more meeting before it goes to council anyway.
I
so.
don't know. This is so minimal, so trivial.
And then the other,
Think about a multi-million-dollar budget.
So that's the expense.
We're
part.
tight.
All
This is-
taxpayers'
We
money.
are tight.
and then the
We
other
should
thing
be.
we talked about, if you remember during salaries,
Finance share expenses.
was the finance chair getting it done, was the clerks, remember the clerk's fee, the clerk's stipend, which we thought maybe we could deal with under the, if we wanted to deal with it. Again, I'm not saying we should do it.
Is this full-time permanent regular? Is that your pay to, what is that?
Full-time
No.
permanent regular.
Oh, that's us.
And this is.
The clerical is $27.60.
Right.
Is that done by the hour or is that a
Well,
salary?
let me just.
Let Barbara go.
Okay, so, the last time, right now, I get paid $100 a month and $65 per meeting. And, the breakout of by meeting and by month is helpful if, like, next week, Mary Ann's gonna cover the meeting, so she'll get $65 for covering the meeting for me. It's just handy to have that. But anyway, the last time,
That's right here.
okay, from 1996 to 2007, it was 55 per meeting and 88 per month. And then 2007, we went to the 65 per meeting, $100. So that is where it is right now. So it hasn't gone up
In
since
7 years.
July 1st, 2007. Now, there's a Mass General Law that allows for an up to maximum of $4,000 if a city clerk is also the clerk who serves as clerk to the city council.
No more than that.
You can't get more than 4,000.
If this is like Mass General Law 41, Section 19F allows, this is where the city clerk is mandated. Now, in our charter, it says may, it doesn't say shall. So, and we have not accepted that section, but I think it's a good guideline to follow, that,
Well, yeah, and that would be quite an increase anyways.
well, and so how, it varies from community to community. In some places, they have their, there's a whole person, that's their only job. And in some places, they rate at 4,000, so it kind of is all over the place. So, I mean, I kind of think that it's getting time for an increase. And the problem is that how we pay it right now is actually in the city ordinances. So I think one thing that needs to be changed is that city ordinance, and right now it's very specific that it says 165. I think it might be better, even if it doesn't go up to $4,000 right now, that it just be changed to say the clerk of the city council will receive it. No more than $4,000 per year for regular council schedule. So,
No more.
then you're, you have
Free to change
flexibility
it every
within
year.
the budgeting process to adjust things.
How would that, Barbara, the only thing is, going back to what you said about like when Mary Ann fills in for you, I mean, I guess that would have to be done through the mayor's office. In other words, if we just set a maximum cap of 4,000,
Well,
then we
I
could
think-
pay you now what we're getting.
Well, no, I think within that changing of the general ordinance, then you could still continue to do a split as the council. You could say, well, we're going to give you $200 per month, and we're going to give you
That just puts a cap on it.
70.
Right, I understand that.
You
It's
could
just-
still, within your own budgeting process.
Within the budget.
Have the way.
It
that
could only be
gets paid.
3,000 next year.
No, right, I know what you're saying.
Right.
Right.
So.
But it would give us the option going
then every
forward too.
time
We wouldn't have to change the ordinance every single time.
Right, we would just be able to move it up. if
Because
we-
now, if we want to do this,
We gotta-
an increase, we have to change.
Even if we went to $101 a month and $66 a meeting,
The
we'd have to
ordinance-
change the
No,
ordinance.
No, if we change your,
Yeah, so if you made it a little more general, and I can throw out proposed wording of that, just so you're not always bound by, exactly the way we do it right now, because how do you know how it's gonna change down the road? But, so that's number one thing that I think makes sense, even if
Even if we don't,
you don't do it right now, that when you're ready, you can just do it. You can just do it through the budget, not have to go through the whole.
because if we change it for this year, we're gonna have to propose the money be put in the budget by the mayor, but then sometime between now
And
and.
then you have to
change the order.
change your.
Because she couldn't get an increase. If we decide to put a budget in that includes an
Add it,
increase,
right.
she can't get it until we change it.
Until we change the ordinance, right?
But we have until June.
So, but you could go ahead and
30.
change the ordinance, thinking ahead even beyond this year's budget. Just to
I
make
understand.
it easier and not so tied to particular numbers. But and so that's number one. And number two, I think after 7-8 years and figuring $100 per month to do everything that I do for the council. I mean, I basically spend the whole day afterwards, and at least, it's not very much. And I'm not gonna say, I can't really say, oh, I spend this particular amount of time on it, because, there's interruptions, and you do a little bit on this, and then you go do a dog license, and, so I split my day up with a bunch of different things, so it's very hard to figure out exactly how many hours. And I think you might say, oh, $65.
It's a salary, I don't look at it. as a-
$65, that's a lot for doing a meeting, but, you really kind of add everything up.
And
But we're not paying you for the time, we're paying you for your qualification, for your skill. The fact that when we ask you a question in the middle of a meeting, do we need a public hearing, you know the answer. I could try to ask Mary Ann that, but she's not as skilled as you because you do it all the time. I'm just getting at the fact that this is a salary, and it's based on skill, and it's based on what we ask of her. It's not how many hours a day or when you do it. All of that doesn't matter. We're paying for her skill level, and if we hired another city clerk, God forbid you ever retire, we would have to hope that that person has a knowledge of our ordinances and our charter and everything else that she has. So my point
It's not gonna happen.
my thinking is, if we do give an increase, it can't be about, well, how many hours does she work? When does she do the work? It's not that. We're hiring her because of her skill level. It's not simply because how long. I hate the fact that I have this problem with a lot of people who think you're being paid to work so many hours. Well, no, I'm not an hourly worker. I'm being paid for the responsibility I have. So I always have that debate with people.
And if we,
When it goes to certain quality positions and the skill level you ask them to have to be in the position, you're paying for that.
and
I
we
just wanted to head off the fact that people are going to say, well, how long does it take to do how many hours? It's not about the hours.
And it's theoretical, if we did change the ordinance, to, no more than city clerk will make no more than, clerk of the council will make no more than 4,000, and we set the thing, we could
Trying to adhere to
we could
state
make
law.
that, yeah, we could make that breakdown any way we wanted, so, because I do think it's fair that,
Well, we could go to 3,000 this year, for instance.
it's fair that Mary Ann know what she's gonna get if, what I'm saying, like, if she has to do a meeting, because it sounds like as Barbara's saying,
Well, when
next,
she does a meeting,
2 weeks.
you still do the minutes. You still take her
so
notes.
she's just gonna get the
And read it.
$65.
No, what I do, before every meeting, I have the minutes almost.
2760.
2760. And certainly, if there hasn't been an increase in 7 years, I certainly could see going to $3,000.
I would recommend 3,000.
Beyond that, it's more than the counselor
Right.
salary is.
Well,
I have a difficulty with.
Well-
And they're different jobs, I understand, so I could certainly see.
Well, again, we don't have to make a decision tonight, but what we have to do is take this information, what Barbara said, and the way it's broken down, and also the stuff on the regular budget, and we gotta be firm at the next meeting. We only have one more
Well,
subject.
what I'd ask Barbara to do is two things, Barb. Take that 3,000 and break it down. Is it 110 per month and $70 per meeting? Break it down the way you think that 3,000 could be broken down. And secondly, give us wording on the ordinance.
another way you could deal with the ordinance, if we want to just take that out, all the city has to do is accept Mass General Laws 41, Section 1.
Well, we
41.
accept that and remove the ordinance completely.
Yeah, because that allows for a maximum of $4,000 of additional pay in cities where the city clerk also.
But if we don't, just hypothetically, if we don't accept that,
You could go higher.
we could go higher.
You could go higher, but
Well, when was the last time that was reviewed? I wouldn't know if
We
we
could
would
change the line item and change the ordinance and
be done with it.
be done with it.
Why is the
Rather than
state
eliminate it,
dictating-
Rather than
this
accept
has
something or
been
not
the
accept
case- I
something.
think this has been
Because
the
once you
case for
accept
years.
something, you
Then-
Yeah, but that means they're
you
not
can't get
taking
rid
into
of it.
consideration
You can't go
inflation or
back.
anything. You're never gonna get an
I had a
increase.
big discussion at the MMA about that one.
What was that?
Serious. Once you accept a
You can't get rid of it.
You can't get rid of it, so you can forever be bound to this 4,000, and that doesn't make sense.
No,
It
we
may
could
not make sense
change
at some
the
point.
ordinance each time we change this.
I would be
Why not?
inclined to
I
stay.
mean, we're only changing it every 7 years, it's no big deal.
Yeah.
We just
I
change
do-
the language, let's not restrict this to 4,000,
I
let's,
do want to say that I think, I think you say, oh, I don't want to go over more than 3,000. I think that could be kind of difficult, because if you go, here's some numbers.
oh, you mean the
If you went
mathematics?
65, now I'm figuring 21 meetings, and I think it should be just under, that's the regular numbers of meetings. Now, I think it should be budgeted for 24 meetings,
In case there's special
in
meeting.
case there's special meetings.
And there may be, right.
And if they're not, then, okay, so $65 per meeting times 21 meetings is $1,365. That's what we're paid right now. If you go up to $200 per meeting times 12 months, or $200 a
per
month
month.
times 12, that's $2,400. So the two together would be $3,765. Now, $265 a month, which no, that would be more than, it would be times 2.
Can I say something here?
It's-
Just to be real,
Yeah,
it's never gonna fly past Melissa, if we go that high.
well,
We have to
Even
be practical here, let's, go
Even
up
if
to
you went to-
3,200 then.
Well-
Break it down any way you want, I don't care if it's
Well, you have to have-
$101.50.
you have to have a number that if we're gonna keep the split, that it works.
Well,
So
can
if you go
split
to
it anywhere.
150 a meeting, And.
I mean, we had 88 a meeting before, why don't we, why can't you figure out from 3,000 what it is?
Yeah, Barbara,
I mean,
all I'm
if it's
saying is,
88,
we have to be very careful, because if we go too
Oh,
high,
I know.
you
I
know, we may not get any of this, because
Oh, I
she's
know.
very picky about
Now,
them.
this
The mayor.
2,760, that's for 24 meetings. That's 24
Okay.
meetings.
It is?
Yes.
Okay, well,
I think we,
figure it out where you get $3,000, and I don't, frankly, I don't care if we have to put dollars and cents in there.
Because that's gonna be like nothing. I mean, really.
It's not much of an increase, you don't think?
Well, 2,760 to 3,000? I
Okay.
mean, really, when you look at that.
10%,
Yeah, but,
close to 10%, 8%, 10% increase.
Are you negotiating with us that you're not gonna do it anymore unless you get a certain figure
well,
here?
my boss did that when he was clerk to the Board of Selectmen. Then you'll have to hire somebody and pay them a full-time salary. No. I just think, look at what you're paying right now, and if you only want to go up to 3,000, I mean, it's gonna be like.
What
are
do you
gonna pay?
want, Barbara? What do you think is fair?
Well, I mean, I'm looking at.
$3,700.
I mean, I think, even if you went up to, what's 150 times 12? What's 150 per month times 12?
18, would that be 1,800?
150 times 12?
1,800.
1,800.
1,800. And then if you kept the 65, this is times 21 meetings,
21 times 65
is
is
1,000.
1365.
Okay, now add that
Plus
to
1,800, 3165.
Yeah.
I just said 32. $3,200.
But you should budget for
So if we budget for
24.
3165,
But I think Barbara's saying you should also budget 65,
65
times three.
24.
right.
is 1,560 plus 1,800, 3,360.
With the idea you might not use that, you might only use 3165, because,
That's a
I don't think-
$600 increase, that's not a lot.
I don't think that's unreasonable.
If you divide that by,
I mean, really. If you divided that out by
Right.
33.76, which is my hourly rate, we're talking about,
divided by 12, you're looking at $50 a month more. I'm okay with that. I'd go to 30, what is it, 3360?
again, we don't have to make a decision, you guys can think it over, run the numbers.
Well,
It's
let
pretty
me
easy,
say this.
now that we know how
I'm
it's
serious
going.
about this. If you go to 3360, I think Melissa may say, wait a minute, that's a lot. We may be ready, I don't know if they'll challenge the council, they usually don't.
Yeah.
These are small figures, but
As I said, we can, we can run them,
if you look at it this way, $600 over 7 years, how
Yeah.
much is that, you know?
yeah,
I mean-
figure that it's probably gonna be another 7 year, I mean, really.
I'll make a flow chart next, just going from 100 a month to 125 to 150 to
Yeah, you can pick whatever
175
you
and pick them all and
you
go
can pick
in.
one.
But-
Or we can go meetings too, you could do 125 a salary and instead of 65, 75 a meeting. I think that,
Right.
adding that up, that'd probably be around 33 or something. I'm just guessing it would be a little off. So we could do all those numbers then.
But I do think that maybe.
I would not want to go beyond 3,500 because we didn't even get an increase in the
Right.
council. I don't want to go too far. I heard that before. 3360
I'll
is
make you
okay.
do my work. But I do think that it might be a good idea to do the other, to change
She's a
the
tough
ordinance, just to get that, you might as well get that
Get
going.
it so it's clean
Just
for the
put
future.
that-
Well, let's get the budget decision made, and I think in the ordinance, we don't put a cap on it, we just do exactly what you said, and every time we change the budget, we change the ordinance.
yes.
That way, there's no restriction. Everybody thinks this 4,000 is a figure that we have to keep. Why?
We
10
don't.
years from now, 4,000 is gonna be low.
it's gonna be low. And the same.
And you said they haven't changed that in 10 years, right?
Oh, I don't think it's been changed in 20 years. I don't
Is
even
that
know.
fair?
All right.
The problem is, Barb, you're worth every penny. That's the
And,
problem.
and every time they don't change that, your value of your penny goes down.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's, I have no idea. So you would want to do is,
I would want to do an
Yeah, I
ordinance
mean, if you
every
wanna
year,
make
change
a
the
full-
ordinance.
I'll do it.
Why don't we make?
I'll do a chart and I'll bring it to the next meeting and I'll start at
It's entirety, it's nothing.
I got nothing to do but run spreadsheets. I'll do it kind of, and I'll do it starting at what we have and kind of go up in increments so that, and I'll do increments monthly and per meeting so that we can and see what we get for a final figure that we're all
I
comfortable
just
with.
think, it's time to think about a little, increase.
Well, it
I gotta
is.
write all this down, darn it! Why did
We
we
just
do
put
that?
discussion about the council.
Discussion
Yeah, we should.
about giving Barb a raise.
I do think that you have to think that
Second.
it's really
All
for
in
the
favor?
position,
Aye.
it's not for me.